Before you judge what I did, listen to how it started. If you've ever been disrespected by your own family and told to relax, it's just a joke, this story will feel uncomfortably familiar. My name is Marissa, and the ring my sister took from me wasn't just jewelry. It was the last thing my mother touched before she died. I got married on a quiet Saturday afternoon. No drama, no luxury, just close family and a small ceremony. My husband held my hand. My heart was calm. For the first time in years, I felt safe. My sister, Lauren, arrived late. She always does. She laughed too loudly, commented on everything, and somehow managed to make the day about herself. During the reception, she kept staring at my hand. The ring, a simple gold band, nothing flashy, but priceless to me. Because my mother gave it to me when I told her I was getting married. She said, "Wear this when you start your real family." She passed away 3 months later. Lauren knew that. Everyone did. At some point during dinner, Lauren leaned over and said, "Wow, that ring is actually cute." I smiled politely. I should have listened to my instincts. An hour later, while people were dancing, Lauren suddenly grabbed my hand. I thought she was joking. She slipped the ring off my finger, held it up, and laughed. "Relax, I'm just borrowing it." The room laughed. I didn't. I reached for it immediately. She pulled her hand back. "Chill," she said. "It's just a joke." I felt my chest tighten. I told her, "Give it back now." She rolled her eyes. "You're so dramatic. It's not like it's worth anything." That's when something inside me snapped. Because she didn't just take a ring. She took the one thing that connected me to my mother on the most important day of my life. I looked around the room. My father avoided my eyes. My aunt whispered, "Don't ruin the mood." My husband stood up. Lauren laughed again and said, "What? Is she going to cry now?" I realized something terrifying in that moment. They were all waiting for me to stay quiet, to swallow it, to protect the peace. But this time, I didn't. I sat back down slowly, smiled, and said nothing. Lauren thought she had won. She had no idea that by taking that ring, she had just triggered the most calculated decision I had ever made. And part 2 is where she realizes this was never a joke to begin with. I didn't laugh when she called it a joke. Everyone else did. They said I was being sensitive, that it was just her humor, that I should lighten up. But when my sister slipped my wedding ring off her finger, held it up in front of everyone and said, "Relax, I'm borrowing it," something inside me went completely quiet. That ring wasn't just jewelry. It was the one thing my husband had chosen carefully. After months of saving, after months of planning, it represented promises, stability, a future I had fought hard to build. And she treated it like a toy. She dropped it into her purse, smiled, and walked away while everyone kept laughing. I asked her for it back. She waved me off. "I'll give it back later." Later never came. That night, I couldn't sleep, not because of anger, but because of the way everyone dismissed it. I kept replaying the moment in my head. The smirk, the confidence, the certainty that there would be no consequences. And that's when I realized something uncomfortable. This wasn't about the ring. This was about power. My sister had always pushed boundaries. She took things, crossed lines, then hid behind jokes when confronted. And every time, the family protected her, because that's just how she is. By morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to explode. Instead, I started watching. I paid attention to how often she did this, not just to me, but to others. Borrowing without asking, taking credit, laughing things off. I remembered every time I'd been told to let it go, to keep the peace, to be the bigger person. And I realized something else. Peace only existed because people like me were expected to stay quiet. So I stopped being quiet. I didn't ask for the ring again. Instead, I did something she never expected. I checked our insurance documents, our home records, every place that ring had ever been mentioned or documented. Then I remembered she had posted a photo wearing it, smiling, showing it off, calling it temporary. That photo changed everything. Because now it wasn't a joke. It was proof. And once I had proof, I didn't need her cooperation anymore. I just needed patience. Because what I did next would force everyone in that family to finally stop laughing. And part 3 is where my sister realizes that taking my ring cost her far more than she ever imagined. After my sister walked away laughing with my wedding ring, something inside me finally went quiet. Not calm, not acceptance, clarity. I stopped asking where my ring was. I stopped reminding her. I stopped explaining why it mattered. That confused everyone, because for years I was the one who begged, the one who smoothed things over, the one who didn't want to ruin the mood. But this time, I let the silence do the work. At family gatherings, my sister kept flashing her hands. No ring. Then suddenly, there it was. My ring slipped casually onto her finger. People laughed. She's just joking. That's her personality. I smiled, but inside, I was counting. Days passed, then weeks, and still she didn't return it. One evening, my mother pulled me aside. "You're being dramatic," she said. "It's just a ring." Just a ring? The same ring my husband placed on my finger while promising forever. The same ring I wore through miscarriages, through losses, through nights I cried quietly so no one else had to. But to them, just jewelry. That night, I opened my laptop. I went back years. Photos, messages, receipts. I found the appraisal. I found the insurance document. I found the original purchase receipt with my name on it. Then I remembered something else. My sister wasn't careful. She loved attention. She loved showing off. And she had posted pictures, public ones. Her smiling, my ring clearly visible, tagged location, time-stamped. I saved everything. I didn't confront her. I didn't warn her. Instead, I waited for the moment she felt most untouchable. It came sooner than I expected. She announced her engagement. Big party, family invited, friends everywhere, phones out, champagne flowing. She stood in the center of the room, so proud, so confident, and on her finger, my wedding ring. That's when I knew. She wasn't borrowing it, she wasn't joking. She had decided it was hers now. I walked up to her slowly, smiling. I hugged her. I whispered, "Looks good on you." Her eyes lit up. She thought she'd won. But what she didn't know was that I had already filed a report. Not emotional, not dramatic, legal. Because when you stop asking politely, you start being taken seriously. And the moment that ring became part of her public celebration, it stopped being a family issue. It became evidence. Part 4 is where everything collapses. Not loudly, not violently, but in a way she never saw coming. The room went quiet in a way I had never heard before. Not awkward, not confused, heavy. My sister's smile slowly disappeared as everyone stared at the screen, at the messages, at the dates, at the photos of my wedding ring sitting in her drawer wrapped in tissue paper like a trophy. She opened her mouth to laugh it off again. It was just a joke. But this time, no one laughed with her. My mother looked at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen again. My father cleared his throat. Once, twice. Finally, he said, "Why would you keep something like this?" My sister's face turned red. She tried to shrug. I didn't think she'd mind. She's always so serious. Always so serious. That's how they explained disrespect. That's how they explained crossing lines. That's how they explained taking from me. I spoke calmly, so calmly it surprised even me. It stopped being a joke the moment you hid it. It stopped being funny the moment you lied. And it became betrayal the moment you let me cry while you knew exactly where it was. No one interrupted me. For the first time in my life, they let me finish. My sister looked around the room, waiting for someone to defend her. No one did. That's when she panicked. She tried to flip the story. She's overreacting. She always does this. She wants attention. But the proof was still glowing on the screen, and attention had nothing to do with it. Trust did. My husband stood up beside me. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse. He simply said, "That ring represents my commitment to my wife. Anyone who disrespects that doesn't respect us or this family." That sentence landed harder than shouting ever could. My sister suddenly looked very small. My father finally spoke again, and his voice was different now. This wasn't harmless, and it wasn't funny. He turned to her. "You owe your sister an apology right now." She stared at him, shocked, because for once, she wasn't being protected. She mumbled something, barely audible. "I'm sorry." But it wasn't the apology that mattered. It was the silence that followed. No excuses, no laughter, no one rushing to smooth things over. Just consequences. After that night, things changed. Not overnight, not perfectly, but permanently. My sister stopped crossing lines because she knew I wouldn't stay quiet anymore. My family stopped treating my boundaries like suggestions because they had seen what happens when they're ignored. And me? I stopped doubting myself. I stopped wondering if I was too sensitive or making a big deal out of nothing. Because respect isn't about how small the thing is. It's about how quickly someone gives it back when they realize it matters. That ring is back on my finger now. Not because I fought, not because I screamed, but because I finally spoke. And the funniest part? She never touched anything of mine again, not even as a joke.